Good morning. How are you? This is Wayne Eulery, and I'm heading into work. And I just wanted to share a little story real quick. A friend of mine at work, his cousin, just recently committed suicide. And I shared my story with him at one point while we were talking, because I have had two failed attempts at suicide in my life. And so whenever I hear of suicide or whatnot, it gets to me, it touches me. And one of the things he said was, Wayne, you got a story you need to tell people. And I have before. I've done a YouTube video before a while back, and I was on a program once and shared it. So I just thought, hey, maybe I'll share it again. It's been a while since I shared my story. And so basically, for me, my first attempt at suicide was at the end of 5th grade. So I was 10 or 11 years old. It's hard to believe because I have a 10-year-old in 5th grade right now. It's really brought me back. And basically what happened was the 5th grade, it just was a tough year for me in school. It was a rough year. I had transferred from Warren to Cleveland. And long story short, I just wasn't fitting in. I wasn't making friends. I don't know. I just came from one Catholic school to another, and we had different dress codes, and the kids just made fun of me, and I just didn't do too well making friends my 5th grade year. So it was a rough year. Every day I'd come home, I'd have cold sores, I'd be crying. Oh man, it was just a rough year looking back. Anyway, long story short, after that year, my mom said, that's it, you guys aren't going to that school anymore. I'm going to put you in public schools. Well, back then, as a Catholic boy, we were told somewhere, I don't know where the story came from, but that public school kids were really bad. So I thought, oh boy, I don't want... I know it was bad my 5th grade year, but I was thinking to myself, at least I knew what it was. Now, the unknown and the idea of it being worse, my mind then just couldn't handle it, and thoughts of suicide began. And the thoughts of suicide is a serious thing. I mean, it's like a spiritual. It's a spiritual attack. And if you've never experienced before, it's really hard to understand, I think. I think probably just like, someone who's an alcoholic, for me, I can't get that because I have no desire to drink and whatnot, but we all have our things. And anyway, once you get into that mindset, it's a tough thing to get out of. And anyway, let me finish this first story here of suicide. So, basically what happened that summer, I was going to go into 6th grade into a public school. Let me move this over here. That summer, I thought to myself, I can't do this. I can't do it. And every day, as it was getting closer and closer time to go to this new school, it just was building the whole entire summer. It was crazy. And that summer, we lived in Westlake, Ohio, in a development called Bay Landing. And we had a drop that summer, and I'll never forget because all of us kids, we would be outside playing in the woods, and we would light these little fires, and we would watch the fire trucks come to put them out, and we thought it was like the funniest thing in the world. I can't believe the things we did. Anyway, what I did was I made a big pile of leaves and lit a ring of fire around those leaves so that by the time it got to me, it would be just crazy and I don't know what the heck I was thinking. Looking back, how morbid was that? Anyhow, I lit this big ring of fire and jumped in this big pile of leaves, buried myself in the leaves, and it rained. It began to rain. It was probably one of the few days that it rained that summer. So needless to say, I didn't get burned, or I didn't pass out from smoke inhalation. So that was that. And then the second one was after my senior year, I had had a breakup with my high school sweetheart, And I still remember I ran over to her house one night. I think it was raining. I think I threw some stuff up at her window or something. I can't remember if she opened the window and we talked at all. It's funny, that part's become a blur now. It's been so long. But I know I had been trying to talk to her for weeks, and she wouldn't take my calls or whatnot. Anyway, it was just a tough time of my life. My only sense of love that I thought that I had was gone. I didn't have a relationship with God. Really didn't know my dad much, and it was, at it with my mom all the time. I think we were so much alike back then that we just were clashing so bad. But anyway, I left her house and ran to my high school, and there was a bridge there, and I tried to jump off the bridge. Anyhow, I tried to jump off the bridge, and I could feel this pressure on my chest holding me back as I'm trying to jump. And I knew it was God. Like, I didn't have a relationship with God at the time, but I knew of him, and I believed in him. And anyhow, I knew it was him pushing on my chest. So I said, fine, if you're not going to let me do this, I'm going to do everything I can to ruin my life. And I'm going to save that part of my story for another time, because that's another story all in out of itself. I want to stay to the topic here, and that is of suicide. And I want to say this, all these, decades later, I have 3 beautiful children, a beautiful wife, and a blessed life. And looking back, I think to myself, what were you thinking? I wish I could go back and talk to that young guy and say, hey, it's gonna get better. But thinking back, no matter where you are in your life and you're dealing with something like suicide. Now, those were things that happened in my youth, but my friend's cousin just took his life at age 23, and I've known people that have done it in their mid-20s and in all different stages of life. It's a real thing that happens, though, when you get into suicidal thoughts, when something like that starts to happen. Those of us that have never experienced it can't understand it. It doesn't make sense to us. I mean, how could you do that? Things will get better. But you can't see it at the time. And so that person out there that might be watching this, and maybe you're feeling that way. Maybe you feel like there's no hope for you. And maybe you lost a job. Maybe you had a divorce. Maybe a loved one just passed away, a child or a spouse or a family member. I don't know your situation, but I do know what it's like to face suicide. I do know what it's like to experience those constant thoughts from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed, and those constant visions and feelings that come upon you. I know what it's like because I've been there. And I can't believe I'm getting emotional about this. It's been so long. I just want to say there's hope. It'll get better. This too will pass. I'm a testimony of it. Life has gotten way better than those 2 times in my life that were just dark times for a teenager, or for a young man. And no matter what age you are, it's going to get better. You just got to hang in there. And I would say, hey, that night when I left her house and I went and tried to jump off the bridge, I called a friend to come get me. And my friend came and got me. He gave me a journal, I remember. He said, Wayne, just start writing stuff down. And I wish I could find that, but I just started writing stuff down and getting stuff off my heart. And it was that was the beginning of my process to, go away from those thoughts. It was a friend. But you know what? It's so hard to reach out to someone because you're convinced that nobody would understand. You're convinced that you're alone and that nobody's had the pressure you have. Nobody's had the situation, the circumstance that just took place. You're convinced that no one would understand you. And that's a lie. That's a lie from the pit of hell. And they may not understand everything, But they don't even need to. You just need someone to talk to and to listen to you and tell you it's going to be okay, and it's going to get better, because it will. And so if you're out there and you're seeing this, and I just recommend that anybody who sees this video, I'm going to put it on Facebook and different social media, please share it to your timeline. And because you never know, like, you don't know, like, one of your own Facebook friends or Twitter friends or whoever could be thinking this, and they're never going to tell you. They're never going to reach out and tell you. And you know, my friend that I just talked to, that his cousin, you know, killed himself, he just talked to him a few weeks ago. He had no idea this was going to happen. So you just don't know. So I just want to say, hey, share this. And if anyone's out there and they need to talk to someone and you just don't know who to talk to, give me a call. You know, send me an email. Connect with me on Facebook. Call me, 330-333-0502. Give me a call and say, hey, Wayne, I need to talk. And let's talk. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to go forward with this, okay? So there's my talk on, you know, surviving 2 attempts of suicide. I'm a suicide survivor, you know, and I say that because I had those strong thoughts of suicide. It grips you. It's like something you don't feel like you can get out of, but you can. Hang in there. I love you. I believe in you. And I know this is going to get better for you. It got better for me. It can get better for you. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.